So I'm in my car again. So I'm just going to talk about what makes a space inaccessible, or how fully abled people have all of their accessibility needs accommodated already. So just as a kind of just a prologue, whenever I use the word comfortable in this video, I don't mean like sitting on the couch with your PJs on comfortable. I mean it does not cause you pain or distress. So that's the kind of comfortable I'm talking about. So on to the main topic, what makes a space inaccessible? So I'm just going to talk about kind of the first obvious thing. Can you get to the space? So in terms of disability, kind of just if there are stairs or a very long walk involved with getting to the space, if someone who has mobility aids might not be able to get to it because, like, stairs are basic. Like, I've heard a pretty good analogy for what stairs look like to someone who uses a wheelchair. They look like a rock wall that like a vertical wall. Like, you can't get up them. If you can't get to the space, then it's obviously not accessible. I don't think that's a part that a lot of fully able people kind of struggle with the idea of understanding. That one's pretty simple. I guess another thing that would kind of be hard, is like a little bit harder, is the space. If we're talking about mobility aids and accessibility, can you get into the space? So, like, is the door wide enough, and that sort of thing. And then within the space, if there's like a lot of tables and stuff, can you navigate through the space? So now I'm gonna move to other things that sometimes aren't necessarily thought of. So because laboratories are kind of what I'm currently struggling with accessibility, I'm just gonna kind of talk about safety equipment. So, like, will you notice the safety equipment? So say there's an alarm on something and it's a light. If you are hearing impaired, if you're visually impaired, you might not notice the light that's blinking that's telling you something's going wrong. If there's a sound and you're hearing impaired, you might not notice the sound. If you're not neurotypical like me, you might not know you might not be able to tell where the sound is coming from or know what it means. Or you might not notice it because it's not a sensory priority with you, for like if you're hyper focused with like ADHD. If you're hyper focused on what you're doing and like there's this beeping going on, you're just like, I'll get to it later, and it's something that's going wrong. Additionally, just kind of safety equipment, like actual equipment that you can use. So like eye wash stations, shower stations, any sort of fire suppressing equipment, so like a fire extinguisher, you will be able to get to them, use them, and like in time. So with an eye wash station, you'll be able to know where it is, like be able to figure out where it is, be able to get to it, be able to use it in time for it to actually be effective. Same thing with shower stations, and kind of like with fire extinguishers, you'll be able to get to them, use them, etc. And just kind of safety equipment in general, you'll be able to tell when something is going wrong and either be able to do something about it or get yourself to safety in time. And then so like another big thing would be furniture. So tables, toilets, chairs, counters, all that sort of thing are of an appropriate height and shape for your anatomy. So if the legs on the table aren't right and you use a mobility aid, you might not be able to sit at the table. That's why there's like wheelchair accessible tables at a lot of restaurants. One thing for me is that I have scoliosis, and while I don't necessarily think it counts as a disability, counters, like, there's a reason that I do dishes pretty much as soon as they start accumulating, because most kitchen counters and sinks are at a height where if I'm like slightly bent forward with my arms down like that for about longer than maybe 3 minutes, my upper back starts hurting a lot. So that's why I do my dishes as soon as they accumulate, so that I'm not doing dishes for a very long time, and then I don't start getting pain. So like that sort of thing. Kind of additionally, just like equipment use. So like using equipment doesn't cause you pain. So like one thing that would kind of apply to for me with like labs, like I am focusing a lot on labs because that's what's currently applicable to me. So there's this one lab room and there are these air compressors and they cannot be turned off because they keep a magnet running and the magnet cannot be turned off. But these air compressors create an extremely distressing and painful sound. I don't know how I tolerated it for a full lab, but all I know is that I could not understand anything anyone was saying. I could barely understand what we were doing. Any amount of trying to stim to help deal with the noise was not helping, and I damn near had a meltdown. That was the first one I'd had in a while. They are not fun. I managed to avert it by getting outside to where there were some plants and it was quieter. But that space is inaccessible to me because it is not comfortable. Most lab spaces are comfortable enough. Like the lab equipment that we would use, although it might make like humming noises that I don't like and find mildly distressing, they're not so distressing that I am hurtling towards a meltdown. Rather, I'm just kind of slowly approaching one, but at a speed such that I can get through the lab and not be struggling too hard. And then another one would be like, so like equipment you're physically capable of using. So like, I guess like just using me as an example because I know my own experience best. There are these like circular grinders that we were using, and like I think I've mentioned. Oh no, that was on my Tumblr. But so deep pressure input on my hands is painful. And I had to hold this small hard object and hold it against a grinder for several minutes. And that was pretty painful, but I couldn't, and like, so like my hand strength isn't bad, it's painful to grip things very hard, and I had to do that for about 5 minutes and it hurt the whole time. Wasn't very fun. I was just pleading with my thumb to not cramp up and stop. And just so as a result, the thing that I was polishing wasn't polished very well because I couldn't operate the grinder properly. I guess another thing that I have problems with is high temperatures. It's a safety issue because I have a processing delay. It takes me about a second or a half second to detect hot temperatures. So if I'm touching something that's too hot, it could be too late before I know what's happening. And like that sort of thing. Like I've it's weird. Like I've burned myself on pans a lot because I don't notice that it's too hot to touch until I've already been touching it, or I'll have several painful seconds of holding a very, very hot dish because I've picked it up and brought it to a point of no return before I've realized it's too hot for me to be touching. So me and hot things is a bad idea, and I don't like a lot of hot air touching my skin. It's painful at a lower temperature for me than I think other people. I just don't deal with heat very well. So like ovens, crucibles, that sort of thing are not good for me to be around. I guess kind of slightly back to furniture a little bit. So you like lab rooms often require you to stand at a counter. So like with your ability of motor control, it will be safe for you to be standing, and it will be comfortable for you to be standing for however long it takes to get through whatever work you're doing. I know there was something else I was going to talk about, but I've been talking for almost 10 minutes, and I think I've covered pretty well just kind of, oh yeah, like another thing is lights. So like just kind of the environment. Just lights, speakers, like PA systems, volume are at a comfortable level for you. So I know like that's another thing that like it'd be more autism spectrum disorder, invisible disabilities than like kind of physical disabilities, but it's still a disability. So yeah, but anyways, like I said, I've been talking for 10 minutes and I've kind of just touched on some of the ways that fully able people already have all of their accessibility needs met. So like this is by no means all-encompassing of anything that can make a space inaccessible. I just kind of wanted to talk about this, and boy, is this a long video.